Church, music, putting Jesus first, just before anything else.
Special. Church, hymns, praise, prayer.
Going to church.
Worship, I think of singing together as a congregation, as a body. I also think of the idea of exalting God. And making him high and great.
I think about heaven when I think about worship.
Singing.
Praise.
Glorify.
Joy.
Marty and Susan are a young couple new to their town and have begun visiting churches in the area in search of a community of faith to call home. After each Sunday morning visit, as they drive to lunch, they discuss their feelings. How friendly and welcoming was the church? What was the atmosphere like? What did they think about the facilities in the building? And then they turn to the elements of the gathering.
Oh. Hey, I really like that church had hymnals with the music in it so we could follow along if I, get lost. At least the music's there.
Yeah, but I wish we didn't have to stand up so much. I mean, after the fifth praise song and, the third hymn, you'd think that maybe we could, sit down for a while. Sit down for at least one of them.
I didn't mind that so much. I hear what you're saying, though. I mean, yeah. What did you think of the worship leaders?
Yeah, they seemed decent enough musicians. Yeah, but they didn't seem to have much passion in... when they were playing the songs, not like the last church we were at, where the vibe of the worship leaders, I don't know, it just seemed really exciting.
Yeah.
Song choice was fine, and the execution was fine, but it just didn't feel worshipful to me.
Yeah. Me either. I did have a hard time getting into it. I don't know. What about when the worship was over?
What do you mean? Well, the sermon was okay. It was better than the worship.
Well, I think they were about the same quality-wise. Not too bad. I am really looking forward to going to that church, though, that we saw online the other day. I heard the preacher's really good. And they have great, exciting worship music. Hey, do you want to give Bob a call, see if he wants to meet us for lunch?
Sure.
We could go to that new place we saw. Here you go. Take that. Okay, here we go. That way, right?
Exactly what is worship? Ask a random group of Christians coming out of church, and as you've seen, you'll get a whole variety of answers. For many Christians, worship refers to a gathering of the church in general, like the weekend worship service. For others, they talk about worship as being the musical portion of a church's gathering in particular, the singing. In theory, most of us understand that our worship of God involves much more than these elements of a Christian meeting. But by the way we talk and the things we do, we show that we think worship is more about the songs we love to sing rather than a whole way of living. The word worship derives from the idea of worth. It means to give worth or value to someone or something. In fact, the word worship simply refers to the ways we express who or what we find most valuable and satisfying. The Lord Jesus gets to the heart of what worship is in this famous encounter in the Gospel of Mark. And one of the scribes came up and heard them disputing with one another, and seeing that he answered them well, asked him, that is Jesus, which commandment is the most important of all? Jesus answered, the most important is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. The second is this, You shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. Which is the most important commandment? One of the problems with the scribe's question is that it shows his desire to compartmentalize. He wants to know the most important commandment. In a way, he is suggesting that some of God's commandments are not as important. Jesus, of course, answers his question, but in a rather interesting way. Where the scribe is looking for just one command, just one thing to do, Jesus refers him back to the command to give our whole self to the whole of God, and then to give oneself to others. On the surface, this is actually two commands, but the whole thing essentially includes the whole law. The scribe asks, "What is the most important command?" Jesus replies, "All of them." The first point to make is this. The Lord's response shows he is talking about a way of being, not simply a list of things to do or ways to behave. He says that love is the chief command, love that shows itself in 1,000 different ways. But he also says this love must involve all of your heart, soul, mind. And in commanding this all-encompassing love, Jesus is not suggesting a new experience. He might be commanding a new recipient of our love, but he knows we are already behaving in worshipful ways as part of the course of our everyday lives. Maybe you don't think of worship as something you're already doing all the time, but the reality is that we worship, we give worth in any given moment to whatever our lives are centered on in that moment. So the question is not whether I am worshiping, but what am I worshiping now? Let me ask you a few questions that might help uncover this truth for you. When you are alone, what does your mind most often become preoccupied with? What do you tend to daydream most about? What do you worry most about? What thing or person or quality in your life, if taken away from you, would cause you the most despair? What animates you most, energizes you most, captivates you most, stirs and inspires and motivates you most? What, based on your daily life and the things you love to talk about, would other people say is the most important thing to you? Whatever answer is most common among that list of questions is what you worship. We are always worshiping someone or something. We say with our lives to our objects of worship, "You are what satisfies me. You are what fulfills me. You are what is most valuable." And when the object of our worship is anyone or anything but God, it is idolatry. And idolatry is dangerously easy for us to fall into. John Calvin once said, "The human heart is a perpetual factory of idols." We are never not worshiping, and we are frequently worshiping idols.